Hello everyone, welcome. This is Juliet here, and today we are going to learn how to make this stunning necklace, which is a little bit easier than it looks, honestly. So you will need a 14mm round Rivoli stone, okay? And you will need two 13 by 18mm Octagon stones. And all of these supplies came in the recent Love Spell collection that came out from Eureka Crystal Beads. So if you go to the website and click on there, it will have all the ingredients that are included in that. There is actually more than what I'm using in the collection, but if you just want to see what's in there, that's a good way to do it, okay? So you will need two Octagons, one 14mm Rivoli, this ring that came in the collection, and again, if you click on the page, you'll be able to see a link for that. I'm using this button here as kind of a, almost like a bail, is how I'm using it, okay? And then I have some 6mm Firepolished beads. I have some 3 by 4mm crystal rondelles. I have some 2mm Firepolished beads, and the rest is all seed beads. And also we do have some 3mm bugles on the back, okay? So if you have the Love Spell collection, you will have got a bead mix. And in it, you will have 8 O's, 11 O's, 15 O's in both, the 11s and 15s come in both black and gold. You will also have the bugle beads in here, and there are 8 O's, but we're not using those, okay? But you will need different colors of, you will need gold, 11 O's, gold and black 15 O's, and 3mm bugle beads. The bugle beads are all on the back. You never really see them. They're on the back of all of the crystals, okay? And then whatever kind of findings you want to finish it off, we did get a Lobster called Clasp in our collection as well. So that's everything you're gonna need. I am using today some 1G thread in this red color, but if you want to use, well, it's more like a burgundy or a wine color, I guess. But if you want to use, you know, fire line, that's fine. You can use that. I would say probably a 6-pound fire line is going to be your best bet, except for maybe the finishing here, because we do have to do a lot of toing and froing. So you might want to use a 4-pound when you're doing the bezel, and then the 6-pound here, just so that you don't fill up the holes on your bezels up here, okay? But you could probably do 6-pound, okay? And then obviously a beading needle, and like I said, whatever findings you need, jump rings, etc. Okay, so let's dive in and get started. Okay, so we will begin with the easy part, which is bezeling our 14mm Rivoli, and most of you already know how to do that, so this should be fairly easy, but this is what we want it to look like when we are done, okay? And I did close in the back because it is a necklace, and this will be rubbing on, you know, the back, like on your chest when you're wearing it. So we are going to close in the back of it. So I'll show you how to do that as well. So get your Rivoli, and you will need some Delica beads, and you will also need some 15 O's, and in our mix we have 2 colors. We have black and a gold color, so I just pulled a few out and then I'll dig around in here. All right, so you're going to begin by picking up 36 of your Delicas onto your needle, and you will need about 2.5 to 3 feet of thread. So go ahead and pick up 36. Okay, so I have 6 groups of 6 beads, which is 36. I'm going to push that all down, and I'm going to leave a little tail about 4 inches that I can weave in at the end. And I'm going to sew through the first bead one more time just to form this into a circle. Okay, so you should now have a circle of 36 beads. and this is my working thread up here, okay? So we're going to do peyote stitch using our Delica beads. So you're just going to pick up one, skip the next bead after the bead that you're coming out from. So I'm coming out from this bead, I'm going to skip this bead, and I'm going to go into the next bead. And the bead that I'm putting on will sit next to the bead that I skipped. Like so. Okay, so they should sit next to each other like this. We're going to pick up another bead. We're going to skip the next bead, and then we're going to sew into the bead after that. And you're just going to repeat this all the way around, and you're going to do this a total of 18 times because that is half of 36, okay? So you're going to go ahead and continue doing this, picking up one bead, and I like to put my thumb on the top while I'm pulling it, and that kind of keeps all of my new beads on the outside. So once I've found the bead that I'm supposed to sew into, which is the one after, so remember you're skipping one and then you're going into the next one, I put my thumb on it just to kind of hold everything in place, and that way I will be able to easily know which is the outside ring, which is the inside ring. Sometimes the beads won't want to sit next to each other, and you can just, you know, tweak them until they do. But what you want is you want it to look like this, okay? So continue around until you've added 18 beads, and I'll come back at the end. Okay, I'm getting ready to add my 18th bead, and you will notice that you have 3 beads left. So all you're going to do, you're coming out from that first bead, you're just going to skip the second bead, you're going to go into the third bead, and then into one of the outside bead on the first pair that you've added, okay? And when you pull that, you should now have a ring of peyote stitch that looks like this, okay? Most of you should know how to do this already, hopefully. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to add one gold colored 15-0 between each of the outside beads. So I'm coming out from an outside bead, I'm going to add another, just add a gold bead into that gap, and I'm going to pull upwards, okay? So when I'm doing bezels, I like to do the front first, because that way I know that the front will look good, you know, because sometimes the tension can be a little bit different on the front and the back. So I want the front to look good, okay? So you're just going to add 1/15 between each of the sticking out beads on the peyote like this, okay? So every other bead will have, you have a gold bead in there, and you're pulling upwards like this and inwards, okay? So I kind of keep it flat and pull upwards as I go, all right? I will come back, you will add 18 beads, and I'll come back right when I'm coming to the end. Okay, and as you're working and you're pulling upward, this will all start to move to the inside, and eventually the line will flip around to kind of meet where the beginning is, okay? So I need to add one more gold bead right here. So I'm just coming out this bead, skipping the lower bead, and I'm going into the next black bead here, the next Delica. If I can get in here. And then I'm going to step up into the first gold bead as well, okay? And you can just give that all a pull. I like to hold my tail and kind of pull it, okay? So we're forming what will be the top of our bezel. It will go over our Rivoli like this, okay? All right, we're gonna do one more row of 15 O's on the top. So what we're gonna do is we're going to alternate picking up first a gold one and then a black one. So make sure that you are exiting from a 15-0. You see I'm coming out the top of that 15-0 right here. So I'm going to start with a gold bead, and I'm going to go into the next gold bead, okay? And then I'm going to pick up a black bead, go into the next gold bead, and then a gold bead, and go into the next gold bead, okay? So you're just going to repeat this, and you will notice that what we're going to get here is kind of like a little decorative pattern, which you can see better on this one that I've done, okay? So you're going to have, it's going to look like this on the front, okay? So just pick up one gold, then one black, one gold, one. You're going to go all the way around, filling that in, and then we're going to go down to the bottom and work on the bottom half. Okay, I'm just adding my last 15-0 right here, and I'm going to sew into the first 15-0 and the first step up into that outer one as well, and give that all a pull. Okay, so your ring should now look like this. So we're going to work our way down through the beads to come out from the bottom now, okay? So just pass into the next gold bead and then the next Delica. And then the next two Delicas as well. So just make your way down to the bottom, okay? And make sure that that's all still sitting nicely. It should be. Okay. So that will be the front of our bezel like this, okay? And we'll be working on the back here. Okay, so just like we did on the front side here, we're going to add one gold 15-0 between each of the outside Delicas. So just pick up a gold 15-0 and go into the next Delica. And again, you're kind of pulling inwards. You may want to have your Rivoli in place, just kind of hold it there so that you have something to kind of judge your attention and pull against, okay? So you're going to add a total of 18 gold 15-0s, one in each gap all the way around. Okay, I've gone all the way around and I'm about to add my last gold bead, and I'm going to step up into the first gold bead as well. So I'm going through both the Delica and the first 15-0, okay? And then you can give that all a nice squeeze inwards. So at this point, it's not holding in your Rivoli yet, but you can at least get the tension kind of pretty good around it, okay? So give it a little squeeze. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna add a black bead between every single gold bead on that we just added. So it's just like we did on the front, except instead of alternating gold, black, we're just doing black, 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 okay? Okay, so as you were working that round, hopefully you were kind of pulling inward after each bead, and it should have grabbed your Rivoli in place, so your Rivoli will now not fall out, okay? I have one more black bead to add right here. I'm going to go into the very last gold bead, and then I'm going to step up into the black 15-0 that we just added in this round, okay? Get that all a pull, okay? So you see how now it's enclosed. However, we want to protect the back because we don't want this point like rubbing against things while we're wearing it, or you know, if you put your necklace down on a table, you don't want to scratch the middle of the back off because then it looks weird on the front, okay? So we're just going to protect our piece. So I'm coming out from one of these black 15-0s that we just added. Okay, next you're going to want to get some 3mm bugle beads, and again we're going to be using our black 15-0s, okay? So coming out from the last black 15-0 that we added, you're going to pick up a bugle, a black 15-0, and a bugle, And we're going to skip the next 2 black beads. So I'm coming out from this one, so I'm going to count 1, 2, and I'm going to go into the 3rd bead. Okay, and that's going to make a little kind of triangle like this, okay? You're going to do this 6 times all the way around, okay? So again, you're just going to pick up a bugle, a 15-0, and another bugle, skip the next 2 beads, black beads, 1, 2, you're going to go into the 3rd bead. Okay, and when you're adding your last group of beads there, you're going to sew into the very first bugle, sorry, the very first 15-0 where the bugle is coming out from. Okay, so you should kind of have like a little crown on the back of your bezel, and you should have 6 peaks in total. Okay, you're going to sew up and through up the bugle bead and through the first 15-0 there at the end. Okay, I'm going to do the back of this one slightly different. Here I used 8 O's. On this one I'm going to use 11 O's. I just think it'll help it sit a little bit flatter. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead just to be decorative and pick up a gold 11-0, and I'm exiting out from the top of that point right here. Okay, and I'm going to sew through the next point like this and pull inwards, and we're going to form a kind of star shape. Okay, so pick up another 11-0, go through the next 15-0 at the next point and pull inwards. Okay, so it's going to form like I said, a star shape and a kind of circle on the inside of gold beads. And when you're adding your last bead, you're just going to sew through the 15-0 and then the first 11-0 and give it a squeeze. Okay, so you should have a star shape kind of like this. Okay, and it's not going to be necessarily perfect because tension is maybe different in some places. Like here, this should really be a little bit further over like that, but it also depends on the length of your bugles, and they are not always exactly the same length. So if one's a little shorter or a little bit longer, however, it is the back, so people aren't likely to be looking at it. So we're not going to stress if it looks a little bit misshapen. Okay, so I would go ahead and reinforce by sewing around that inner ring again. Okay, and then what you can do is go around just through the 11 O's to pull it in even more if you want to. It's not really necessary, but if you feel like doing that, you certainly can. And if you want to help with the bugle spacing a little bit, okay, what you can do is you can go down a bugle and don't go into the 15-0 at the bottom, just go up the next bugle. And don't go into the 15-0 at the top either, only go down the next bugle, okay? So what I'm doing here is I'm just kind of connecting the bugles together without the seed beads in between. So I'm just going up and down each bugle bead. And you'll notice that it will kind of help the shape of the star. Okay, I will finish this off and then we're going to come back and start working on this one. So go ahead tying, well, you can leave your tails for now, but you may even want to leave your thread attached because it will be useful later on while we're attaching this to the rest of the necklace. Okay? Okay, so we're now going to begin bezeling a octagon stone, and I've already done one. You're going to need to do 2 of them, okay? So this is what it will look like. Again, we have kind of similar embellishments to what we have on the front of our Rivoli, okay? And the back also does have on it some gold beads and some bugle beads, so it kind of matches in style, okay? All right, so grab your stone, and to begin, get yourself a nice long piece of thread. This one does use more thread than the other piece, okay? And I left a bit hanging off so that I can attach it later. Okay, so for this, we're going to think convenience store, okay? So we're going to also need here our 2mm Firepolished beads, okay? All right, so like I said, we're gonna think convenience store. So I want you to think of a big gulp and 7-Eleven. We're going to pick up 11 of our Delica beads. Okay, so once you have 11 beads on, okay, you're going to push that down to leave enough of a tail that you can weave it in at the end as usual, and then you're going to pick up one of your 2mm beads, and then we're going to pick up 7. So we're doing 11, 7, 11, 7. Okay, so, or you can do 7, 11, 7, 11, whatever you feel like. Okay, so this time I've got 7. Okay, and then again I'm going to pick up 11 now, but first I have to pick up a 2mm and then 11. So we have to have a 2mm between each of our counts of beads, okay? And to finish off, we're going to pick up 7. And a 2mm, okay? Okay, so you should have 11, a 2mm, 7, a 2mm, 11, a 2mm, and 7, a 2mm. And then we're going to sew through until we exit. So we're going to sew through the first 11 beads and exit from the first 2mm that we added. Okay, so once you're sewing through those first 11 beads and the first 2mm, you're going to pull it into, at this point, it'll be a kind of squircle, okay? I'm just going to quickly grab some more Delicas. Okay, so once you're exiting from the 2mm, you are going to do peyote stitch again, just like we did before. So you're going to skip the next bead and you're going to sew into the next bead after that. And because of the way the math works out on this, okay, you will always end up sewing into a gold bead. So you will add a bead here and sew into a gold bead, then you're going to add a bead, and at the end here you'll have added a bead here and sewn through the gold bead, okay? So it should work out perfectly if you've counted your beads correctly, okay? So I will go ahead and do this, and I will come back when I am finished going around. Okay, I'm adding on my last 11-0 and I'm sewing into the gold bead. Okay, so if you have done this correctly, you'll notice that you should have 2 Delicas before and after each gold bead here, okay? All right, so go ahead and step up into the first Delica after the gold bead. And we're going to begin adding some 15-0s here. So for our first row here, we're going to add gold between each of these on the side. So pick up a gold, and I'm at where my 7 are. So you're gonna just pop one in each spot. And then what you're going to do, and again, I'm kind of pulling this upwards now, okay? Then what you're going to do is you're going to pick up 2 black 15-0s, and you're going to skip over the gold bead, and you're going to go into the next Delica on this side, which is the side with 11 beads, okay? So just pull those 2 Delicas, so they'll just sit like this, okay? Kind of going over the top of that gold bead. And again, now here, we're gonna again add gold, 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 gold. So you're gonna add a total of 5 gold beads. Okay, so that is my second side on. So we're gonna do the exact same thing here. We're gonna add 2 black 15-0s, and we're gonna sew into the first Delica after the gold fire polish bead here. Okay, and then we're going to continue on. We're going to add 3 gold beads, 2 black beads, and then 5 gold beads along this side. So I'll come back when I finish that. Okay, so I added my 5 gold beads. I'm back to kind of where I started, and I have to still add my 2 black beads, and I'm just going to sew into the Delica, and then I'm going to step up into the first gold bead here. Okay. Give that all a good pull, and it should sort of start to look squarish. I guess square. It should kind of begin to form more of a rectangle shape, okay? Okay, and here is the next step we're going to do, and here is where it's kind of useful if you're using a thread the same color as your stone, or if not, the same color as your dark beads here, so that it doesn't stand out, because there will be a tiny bit of thread visible. Okay, so you're going to pick up a 15-0. I'm exiting this 15-0 here, and I'm on the short side that only has 3. So we're just going to add 1 15-0 between each of those 2. So 1 here and 1 here. And give those a pull, and then I'm going to go straight through the 2 15-0s above our fire polish bead right here, and into the first gold bead on the next side, okay? And this is where, like I said, there may be a tiny bit of thread showing, but what you want is you want it to kind of pull inwards like this. So if you look at this one here, you may be able to see right at this corner right here a tiny bit of thread, but probably not really, but you can kind of see it if I point it out, but nobody's gonna notice it, you know, on your jewelry. Okay, so all right, so here on this side now, what we're going to do is we're going to do a gold into the second gold bead, and then we're going to do a black 15-0 into the third gold bead. We're going to do another black into the fourth gold bead, and then a gold into the fifth gold bead. Okay, so it should look like this. So we have a peak, and then a single bead, and then another peak. Okay, so you're doing gold, black, black, gold. And when you get to the end, you're just going to sew straight through those 2 15-0s that are hanging out on top of the fire polish bead. Okay, and pull. and then sew straight into the first gold bead on the other end. So this end is the same as this end. We're just going to add 2 gold beads. And then again, after you've added your second gold bead, you're going to sew straight through the 2 black beads at the corner. And then the last side is the same as this side, so we're going to do, first you have to sew into the gold bead after the black beads, okay? Remember that step. Once you go through here, you have to go into the first gold bead on the next side, okay? And then we're going to do gold, black, black, gold. Okay, and when you get to the end of that, you are going to again pass through the 2 black beads at the corner, okay? And then we're gonna go around again, and we're only gonna add 1 gold bead right here and 1 gold bead right here. So you're gonna have to just follow the beads. So from your 2 corner black beads here, go into the lower gold bead on the end, because we want to kind of strengthen this pulling inwards right here. And then you're going to sew through those beads through the gold bead and then pass through the 2 at the end. Once you're coming out the gold end bead, you're going to again pass through those 2 above the fire polish bead. Okay, once you're here, you're going to move up the gold bead and the next gold bead. And then the gold bead and the black bead. And then the whole reason we're even doing this right here, you're going to add 1 gold 15-0 and sew into the next black bead right here. Okay, so we now have 2 where that single bead is. There's a little row of 2, okay? And then you're going to sew all the way around, making sure that you go through the gold bead, the 2 here, and then gold, 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 2 here, gold, 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 exit the black and add a black bead right here. Okay, and then I'll come back when I'm doing that, and then we'll move on. Okay, I'm picking up the gold bead on the other side here, and I'm sewing into the black bead and into the gold bead below that as well. Give that a pull. Okay, so it should now have that extra bead on both sides. All right, so go ahead and make your way down towards one of the 2mm fire polish beads, however you want to get there. I'm going to go through this Delica here and the next Delica and the next Delica, and then the fire polish bead. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to start working on the back of our bezel. So this is the front of our bezel, so this will sit on top of our stone like this. Okay, so coming out from my 2mm fire polish bead, I'm going to flip over to the back. I'm going to hold my stone in here just to help me with tension. And so now I have to work in this direction instead of the direction I was going, okay? And so what you're going to do is you're going to first step up into that first Delica bead that is here sticking out, and then we're going to add 1 black 15-0 between each of these, and just like we did on the back, when you get here you're going to add 2. So the same as the front, it's just everything is black instead of gold, okay? So just add 1 15-0 here, 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 2 here, 1 1 1 1 1, 2 1 1 1, 2 1 1 1 1 1, okay? So I'll come back when I finish this round, and I find it helpful to hold my stone kind of in place just to help me with tension at this point. But if it's annoying you, you can take it away and then bring it in a minute, okay? Okay, I'm at my last corner and I'm just adding my 2 black 15-0s. I'm sewing into the Delica and then I'm stepping up into the 15-0 there, okay? And as you can see, my stone is currently not held in, but I've been holding it in place just to try and make sure that I'm pulling in around the stone and kind of try and get the tension a little bit better, okay? All right, so this next round, at the first line here, we're just going to do black between each 15-0, and the back is a tiny bit different because where before we kind of went from the last bead, we went straight through here and then into here. But on the back, we're going to add 1 extra bead at the corner that we didn't do before. So you're not going to go straight from the 15-0 through the 2 15s. You're going to add 1 15 and then go through the 2 15s. Okay, and then again, you're going to add 1. You're going to go into the next 15. Now on the long side, which is where we are now, okay, let me turn slightly, okay. So I'm about to start my long side. I just added my 1 after my 2 15s. You're going to pick up a gold bead for your first one after that, okay? You're going to pop that in. And then you're going to do 2 black beads individually, So 1 and 2. And then you're going to do 1 gold bead. And then you're going to do your black bead going into the 2 15s at the corner, okay? So that's the only difference on the side. So you're doing it from your 2 15s, you're doing a black bead, then a gold, then a black, then a black, then a gold, and then a black, and into here. All the ones on this end are black. And then you're going to do the same as you did here on this side, okay? So go ahead, remember after the 2, when you're exiting from the 2, you do 1 black, then a gold, black, black, gold, and then a black, okay? All right, I'm gonna finish this round off and I'll come back in a second. Okay, I'm coming up to my last little corner here, so I'm gonna do my last black one. I'm gonna go through the 2 15-0s that are at the corner there, okay? And then I have to also add 1 right here where we started, okay? And then you're gonna step up through 2 15-0s. So you're adding 1 on top of the Delica where we started, and then you're stepping up. Give that all a pull, and then you may want to check that the front is aligned nicely with your stone, and it should kind of be held in at this point, not super tight, but it should be like, you know, holding it in. Okay, all right. Okay, so where you stepped up, which is if you count your beads here, we have 1 2 3 4 15-0s, and kind of between our 2 gold fire polish beads, okay? So we're actually coming out from the middle right now, okay? So what you're going to do at the middle of the short side is you're going to add 1 gold 15-0. And then you're going to add one black 15-0. And then above where your two 15-0s are at the corner right here. So see, I'm at where my two are right here above this. Okay, I'm going to add a gold 11-0. So not a 15, but an 11-0. Okay, and you're going to go into the next 15-0. This. Then you're going to add a black 15-0 and sew into the gold 15-0 that's here. You're going to pick up a gold 15-0, sew into the next 15-0. And you're going to pick up another gold 15-0, sew into the next black 15-0. And one more gold 15-0 and sew into the gold 15-0. So the three that are between the two gold beads on the side will be gold, okay? And then you're going to switch back to black. So you're going to pick up a black, go into the next one, which is the one right at the corner before the two black 15-0s above the fire polish bead here. Okay, so there's my two, so I'm going to pick up a gold 11-0. Okay, so an 11-0, not a 15-0. You're going to go through the next bead. And then on the end here, we're doing black, gold, black. So start with a black 15-0. Then a gold 15-0. And then a black 15-0. And then again, you should be above where your two black 15s are. So again, we're going to add a gold 11-0. Okay, and then here we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go black, gold, 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 black, and then you're going to add an 11-0, and then you have to add one more black one, and then you're going to sew up, step up into the gold bead in the middle right here is where we will step up. Okay, so black here, three gold, and then a black, and then an 11-0, gold 11-0 above the two at the corner. And then you're going to add one black bead, and then you're going to step up through the black bead and the gold bead as you're adding your last one. Okay, and give it all a pull inwards. Okay, so your stone should really be feeling like it is held in at this point. We are still going to cover the back to protect the back, but it should be staying in. And if you need to on the front, you can kind of adjust it, you know, like twist it a little bit if it's not quite straight. So just take a minute and get it to where it looks good on the front. Okay. Okay, so we're now going to add some backing here, okay? So the first thing you're gonna do, you're gonna pick up a 3mm bugle bead, and you're going to sew from this gold bead that we're exiting right now into the corner bead right here, okay? Like this. And then we're going to pick up two 3mm bugles. You're going to sew into the middle 15-0 on the side. Pick up two more bugle beads, and you're going to sew into the 11-0 at the corner. And then you're going to pick up one bugle bead, sew into the gold 15 in the middle right here. Pick up another bugle bead, sew into the 11 at the next corner. Pick up two bugle beads, sew into the middle 15-0. Pick up two more bugle beads and sew into the 11-0 at the corner, and one more bugle bead and sew into the 15-0 where we started in the middle of the short side. Okay, so it looks like this, and these may be kind of poking up. That's perfectly normal, okay? All right, so you're going to sew forward through the bugle and the 11. That's already in place. And then we're going to sew up through the first bugle bead. So only sew up one bugle bead, okay? You're going to pick up three black 15-0s, one black 11-0, and three more 15-0s. Okay, and you're going to sew into the next bugle bead, sew through the 11-0 at the corner as well. Okay, so this is kind of building across the middle here like this. Okay, just go ahead and sew through the bugle 15 and bugle at the end. And then we're going to do the same thing here. You're going to sew up, you're going to add 3 15s, and 11 and 3 15s, and sew down to the corner, okay? Okay, once that is in place, you will move through the bugle bead and the 15-0 at the end. You're going to pick up a gold 11-0 and then a gold 15-0, a bugle bead, and another gold 15. Okay, so 11, 15, bugle 15. And you're going to sew straight into the 11-0 on the little strand that we created a second ago. Still working in the same direction that you're going in. So you're only sewing through the 11-0, okay? And you're going to give that a pull like this, okay? And then you're going to reverse what we picked up here. So we're going to pick up a 15 and then a bugle and a 15, and then a gold 11. And you're going to sew through the 15-0 at the end here, the gold 15-0. Okay, so like this, then you're going to sew back down through that gold bead, the 11-0. Okay, so you're exiting from the 11-0, you're going to pick up a 15, a bugle, and a 15. Okay, you're going to sew through the 11 on the other side. Like this. And give that a pull. And then we're going to pick one more time, pick up a 15, a bugle, and a 15. And we're going to go down into the 11-0 at this end right here. Okay. And then you're going to sew forward through the 15-0 in the middle. You might as well sew up through the bugle bead and the 11 as well, just to get away from the area that you're in. Just makes it a little easier. Saying that, I can't even get into it, but yeah, there we go. Okay, so you're coming out from the 11 and you're sewing through the 15, the bugle, and the 11, okay? And give that a pull like this, okay? So you should now have a backing on your piece, and anywhere that you feel needs to be reinforced, you can go ahead and reinforce that. It's a good idea to kind of sew through a few things on the back here. If you like, I like to go up and reinforce this line. I find that helps, okay? And then you can leave your thread attached for now because we can use it while we're assembling our piece, okay? So you're gonna go ahead and do 2 of these. All right, so get 2 ready and 1 of your Rivolis, okay? Okay, so I have laid out a rough idea of how I want my necklace to be. So I'm gonna have a kind of triangular area here that is joined by beads like this, okay? And then I'm gonna have this, and then this, and then this is gonna dangle on the bottom here. So I've already gone ahead and using some of the jump rings that came in the collection, I have joined a jump ring onto the button and then onto my ring that came in the collection, okay? Obviously, you don't have to do it this way. You could do it however way you want using your components, but this is my plan. And that way, when this is hanging like this, I'll do it like this so you can see. I will be able to sew through the buttonhole like this. I'll be able to sew beads from this component through the buttonhole and then up again, okay? And then I'll have a secondary one here going this way in order to keep these from twisting around. If I just had this, these could turn around when you're wearing it. So that's what this little bit up here is going to stop them from turning around, okay? So this is my plan. So we're going to use a thread. We're going to come down. We're going to go across, up, down, around, okay? And then we're also going to make a little bail for this so that it can hang on here. In fact, I think we'll do that first. We'll get this bit done and then we'll do the bit up here, okay? Okay, so I've just pulled out some gold 11-0s just to make it a little bit easier for me, and I've threaded my needle on the thread that I had left when I finished my bezel here because I still had some thread. So you're going to notice that you don't want to just stick it anywhere because you want your connector to either be connected here, because that's the middle, okay, or like one of these. You don't want it to be connected like over one of these, okay? So just decide where you want it to be connected, and I've decided I want mine to be connected this way so that this bottom bit like points back up towards the necklace basically. And then the second consideration is you need to look at the back and see what's happening at the back. So that is not exactly above a middle bead, so I may look at moving over. Yeah, okay, so this join right here has the bead here where my star is connected, so I'm just going to move forward over to the next bead over, the next gap over, because I do want that to be lined up so that it's, you know, got a proper top and bottom on it. So just move forward until you find the proper space that you need, okay? Okay, so I'm exiting right before the pair of beads above that and in the middle here, okay? Now I am kind of doing a subtle veil. I don't want it to be too noticeable because there is quite a lot going on in this necklace with this ring and this and this, and then there'll be stuff up here. So I don't want to, you know, overcomplicate things. So we're just going to do a simple kind of ladder stitch or herringbone stitch. So I'm picking up 2 of my gold beads and I'm going to go into the bead directly opposite. So I'm skipping the 2 right here and I'm going into the next bead, okay? And I'm going to turn around. So I'm going to go through one of the beads of the next pair, and then I'm going to go back the other way through the other bead. So I'm just turning directly into, I'm exiting this bead, I'm turning directly into the next bead to turn around and go back the way that I came from. And the thread will just hide right down, just pop out of sight right in between those 2 beads. So you don't need to worry about that. And then you can go through the single bead on this side and up through the first bead that we added of the pair. And you'll notice that they can kind of sit flat like this, okay? So we're just going to add 2 beads. Sorry, this is actually kind of square stitch, I guess. You're going to add 2 beads, and then you're going to go up 2 beads on the left hand side. You're going to pick up 2 more beads. You're going to go down the bead on the right side and up 2 beads on the left side. Pick up 2 beads, go down the bead on the right side and up 2 beads on the left side, and you're just going to keep doing this until you get to the length that you want, and you can kind of squish it down. Now these ones are not really connected, they're connected onto this one, but they're not connected together yet. We will sew back down here to join them together, okay? So you're going to keep going until you get the length you want. I'll come back in a minute and tell you what that is that I'm doing. Okay, so I did 8 beads going up, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew all the way down the left-hand side, sorry, the right-hand side, to join all of those properly together, okay? And then I'm going to go back up the left-hand side. Okay, so everything is kind of joined. And you're going to grab your ring and make sure that it's facing so that your button is facing the right way, or maybe you don't even have your button on yet. That would be easier probably if you haven't joined your button on yet. You're going to sew through the ring and fold this over like this, okay? And then I'm going to flip over to the back here so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so once you get to the back, you'll notice that you are kind of straddling a pair right here, okay, above this one right here. So we came out from a single bead, we went over the pair and into the other single bead. So we have this middle bead right here that we can use that's directly above that, okay? So I'm coming out on the left hand side and I'm going to sew from left to right through that bead, through that Delica bead. And then I'm going to sew all the way up the other side of my bail. So all the way over, back over to the front. And I'm pulling this as tight as I can to get all the slack out. So it should be pretty tight up against the ring, you know, not too loose, okay? So I have to work my way all the way back over to the front. Okay, and when I get to the front, I'm going to sew through the Delica at the front right here. Okay, so we haven't been through this one yet. So you're going to go through the Delica at the front. That's right above that black 15-0. Okay, and then go ahead and sew all the way over again to the back. Okay, when you're coming out the back, you can go ahead and once again sew through the same Delica that we sewed through before, and then go back over to the front again. Okay, okay, so our bail is now attached on. You can weave in your thread and weave in your other thread, and then this portion is now completed. Okay, and if you haven't added your button, you can add that on at this point. Okay. Okay, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to sew forward until you're exiting from one of the lower corners, and it doesn't matter, you can use the one that's on this side or that side, however you want to do it, okay? And what I did, I mean, you can change this, you can pick up your own selection of beads, you don't have to follow mine. I picked up an 11-0 gold and then a rondelle. These are 3x4 millimeter rondelles. Then a 2mm fire polish bead, and then a 6mm fire polish bead, a 2mm fire polish bead, a rondelle, 4 11-0s, and then I picked up an 8-0. And the 8-0 is there to stop the beads from going through the button because it's a little bit larger, so I'm hoping that'll act as a kind of stop. And then I'm just sewing through my button like this, okay? And then I'm going to pick up the reverse and I'm going to sew into the bead right here, and I'm going to sew all the way up the side up to the top. So let's pick up the second half of this, which is a an 8-0, and then 4 gold 11-0s, and then a rondelle, a 2mm fire polish bead, a 6mm fire polish bead, a 2mm, a rondelle, and an 11-0. Okay. And then we're going to sew into the 2mm fire polish bead at the opposite corner, like this. Okay, so I now have to sew all the way over and exit from here. So let me do that off screen and I'll be back in a second. Okay, once I exited from my gold bead here, I did exactly the same kind of idea. So I did an 11/0 rondelle, 2mm fire polish, 6mm, 2mm rondelle, and another 11/0, and I went into the gold bead at the corner here, and then I'm going to go and reinforce all of this, okay? And then that'll be kind of the middle of your necklace. Now, like I said, if you want to attach a chain, you can do that. I would make a loop just like this right here, and then put a jump ring and add your chain. Or you can make some links using wire with wrapped loops that match the beads here. You know, you can make some links and finish it off, and I'm probably going to do that. So I will come back once my necklace is all finished and show you the final necklace. But you know, I think it's really pretty and elegant, and I hope you try this. And okay, I'll be back in a minute. Sorry, I'm just coming back really quick to say, if you don't want to sew all the way around when you're reinforcing, you can just turn in the peyote like we did down here. Just do a turn and then go back and do a turn, you know, and reinforce this area, and then work over, and then turn on this side and turn. Okay, so don't feel like you have to go all the way around every single time. It's okay to turn, do this section, and then work over, and then turn and do this section. Just to save you a bit of time, okay? Hi guys, I'm back and I finished my necklace, kind of. So I ended up kind of doing a compromise, and I did shorter beaded bits at the side, and then the end is gonna be chain, but I don't have the right chain. I'm gonna have to change this because you can see it doesn't really properly match very well, so ignore that bit up there. That's gonna be fixed later. But anyway, I love the bit down here, the main bit of it, which looks so elegant. Hopefully you'll try this. So what I ended up doing on my sides here is I just copied the motif from here, and I came out at the top here. I went up and I did the motif, and then just a single, I did 5 beads, seed beads, and then a single 6mm fire polish, 5 beads, and then a motif, 5, single, 5, that, and then I made a loop on the end, came back down again, and I went through the first seed bead, and then I added 3 more, and then I continued down and I added 3 anywhere that there was the 5 seed beads, and then I came out through the first seed bead and I added 4, and I went in here, I turned around, went all the way back up, finished off my loop, went all the way back down and tied off, and then I did the same on the other side. Now obviously you don't have to do it the way I did, you can do it however you want to, but I'm just showing you in case you're curious how I did it. And then through the loop I put a jump ring and then a bit of chain, and then I've got my lobster claw. So yeah, this chain has to go. I'm gonna have to figure something else out for that bit up there. But anyway, I love the bottom bit of it. Looks really pretty. So I hope you try this. Do go and check out Eureka Crystal Beads if you need any of the crystals or anything else. They have lots of beautiful things, and I'll put links for everything that I'm using down below, obviously, as well. Okay guys, I will see you very soon for another video. Take care. Bye.